Hey yo, fellas, we made men, we made men. Try to believe that within. I just wanna be a good man. Okay, I know you are, but tell me you a good man. Tell me you're a good man. So many men are being crushed. Societal demands to be tough. Yes, you are enough. Okay. I just wanna be a good man. I can't relate to you, brother, cause you're a good man. Yes, you are a good man. Listen, I'm right beside you, I'm right behind you. I know that life could be hard. That right? You're not a coward, you got the power for talking about your scars. No, you're not soft. Let me inspire you, empower you, because society may wanna see you fall. You got another brother to call. So many men are being crushed. Societal demands to be tough. Yes, you are enough. Don't bluff. Okay. I can't relate to you, brother, cause you're a good man. Yes, you are a good man. Hey, I'm here, my brother. You know I love you. Yes, you are enough. I just wanna be a good man. I can't relate to you, brother, cause you're a good man. Yes, you are a good man.
All right. Welcome to the M.A.D.E podcast. This is your man, Derek Butler. Man, I'm so great, so happy to be here right now. I'm also known as DB Empowers. Listen, we're doing something special here. We are doing something very, very special. This is the M.A.D.E Project. The M.A.D.E Project. We're talking about motivated. We're talking about accessible. We're talking about disciplined and expressive men. That's what M.A.D.E is about. We are right now dismantling society's false sense of masculinity. So many men are being crushed under the societal demands to be tough, to deny any kind of vulnerability, sensitivity, or any internal hurt or pain, and it's time to change that narrative. And my first guest for this podcast, the first guest I have on to help me change this narrative is my man, Joe Blank. Joe, introduce yourself, brother.
Hey, woo! Joe Blank is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to be here, Derek. I'm from Rochester, New York. I'm a controller and HR director by trade, currently laid off as of the end of August. I'm sorry, end of April. I wish it was the end of August. And just looking to do my new thing and looking to change make a world a better place, one person at a time, if I can, quite honestly.
Absolutely, man. I get it, man. Listen, this is my forget about it guy. This is my brother from upstate New York, and I met this brother during a quad meet, which is something great that's going on LinkedIn. You want to explain quad meets real quick? I see you're on them often.
Yeah, no, I'm actually a quad squad leader. Yeah, they're great. They're all about meeting. It's four people, hence the word quad, right? So it's four people getting on from all over the world, all over the country, everywhere, and just getting together and talking. And we all, as people, have a financial responsibility for our family. So that's what we're trying to do, is make those connections that could potentially help us. And in the meantime, just also with mental health, just helping people get out there, because everybody's been so constrained by this pandemic. And whether you believe it's political or not, it's happening in everybody's world and all throughout the world. And this is just a chance to get to know some new people, get to meet some different folks and their backgrounds and understand them. And it's just a wonderful thing. I happen to be a squad leader, and I love being it. And our squad host, it's called a squad leader, but I host events at all different times, and it's just been such a blessing.
Man, that's great, man. Thank you for sharing. And like I said, I met this guy in the quad meet, and it was such an amazing experience, man. We just connected, and we've been chatting ever since then. He's so supportive and understanding, and just he does some amazing things. He's a great guy to know and talk to. And when I definitely get to upstate New York, I'm gonna catch up with him so we can have a face-to-face conversation. Maybe go out and get a couple of adult beverages or something like that.
There we go. Now we're talking.
Yeah. So, brother, man, this is great, man. We got the M.A.D.E Project starting. This is the M.A.D.E podcast, man. And I want to be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you something. I've been kicking around this idea for a long time, Joe. And when you reached out to me and we had that brief conversation, at that point in time, I said, you know what? I'm gonna move forward with it. I've been spinning my wheels. I said, that's funny. When he said, yo, you can interview me, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just move forward with it. I had nothing in place. I had nothing planned out. It's just been in the back of my mind. I've been toying with M.A.D.E for the last, I'm going to say almost 10 years now. I've been toying with the M.A.D.E. It started off as a mentoring program for youth that I did. I was about to do a nonprofit for it, but M.A.D.E has always been in the back of my mind. And I'm in this position now as an entrepreneur that once the ideal comes into, comes into thought, you got to move forward with it. And I've been putting this off for a long time. I said, you know what? Joe brung this to me for a reason. Let's kick it off. Already got 5 guests lined up for interviews. I'm doing another interview tonight. Like, people just jumped on board. I got some prominent people. Like, it's really big, man. It's huge. So it's moving. It's rolling. And I have to thank you for that, Joe. I really appreciate that.
I didn't do anything. I just put the idea out there saying I'm willing to be a guinea pig and just try it out, see how it goes, So well, I just forget about it. I help the brother out.
Forget about it. We're rolling with it now, brother. We're rolling with it, man.
I just forget about it. I help the brother out, So
I'm gonna jump into this. And I'm gonna start with this, man. When you were growing up, what did you think made a man a man?
Being strong.
Being strong.
Being able to provide. Those are the examples that I had around me. And, I would say, my father did the best that he could at his level, did the best that he could, but I learned that I wanted to be more. He was, he seemed very content in whatever it was. And to me, I wanted more out of life. And I learned that from him. I mean, he was a great guy in a lot of ways. I know my sister and brother have had some issues, but, I loved him. We all loved him in some capacity, right? But yeah, just the examples that I saw, it was a tough guy. It was a tough guy image. It was always the, don't show emotion. Don't let fear, don't let them see you, be afraid.
Yeah.
Just those kinds of examples, because I grew up in New York City, right? And that's the melting pot of everything, right? It's, people and attitude and, it's all about, hey, how you doing? And everybody's like that, and that's the women, so, so as a guy, you had to step it up even further, so that's what I was around a lot.
That's great. If you had to put like one word to it, what would one definition be of a man as you were growing up? Just one word to define manhood. From your younger perspective.
Sure. I'd say strength.
Strength. Yeah. Strength. Absolutely. I was very similar, man. My dad, and I go into stories. I don't know, some of my content, I talk about my dad, the relationship, how tough that was. But, I just got to the point during the last 4 or 5 months that I was able to truly forgive my dad and release all the anger, pain, and resentment I had towards my father due to the things I experienced growing up. But when I was younger, when I was a child, before I knew any better, my dad was my hero. My dad was the coolest dude in my town, coolest person in the city. He was big into sports, big into women. And that's what I picked up from my dad. So when I looked at a man, my ideal image of a man is he's supposed to be cool. He's supposed to have a beautiful wife at home and several women out there in the street. So that was my viewpoint, and just a smooth dude. My dad was a smooth guy. So I get it. And my definition, if I had to give it one word, man, it was just cool. Cool, man. That's who my dad was, man. It was cool. So now let's fast forward to where you are now, man. What made you the man you are today? Like, share your story. I know you and I briefly touched on it, man. And if you don't mind going into it now, brother, like, share your story and what made you who you are and what you are today.
Yeah, happy to do it, brother. So at the age of 16, I lost my mother due to cancer. And that changed me a lot. I mean, I know, people, see violence, they witness acts of violence with their own families and things like that, and they see death. And, but for me, it really changed me. It made me, I cried a lot about it. And I wasn't afraid to. It was just, it was my pure emotion. And I moved away from the city. Like, they just felt my dad wasn't capable of taking care of me. And he agreed to it. And I lived with my sister and brother-in-law. So I was moving, it was ultimately my decision. But I moved away and moved up about 2 hours away to upstate New York, in the Hudson Valley area, just below Albany. And I started a whole new high school, the whole thing. And I was scared to death. Like, did I really do the right thing? I mean, I left all my friends behind, all my contacts, everything. I mean, there was no social media back then, there was pay phones and phone calls and things like that. There was no cell phones, and it's just like, I had to grow up quick. And, so it just changed. That just changed my life. And from there, it just became one of those things where I just had to, all right, develop my own self again, reinvent myself again a little bit. I had to, I had to grow up and be really mature at the age of 16. And people saw that. They would say, how old are you? I'm like 16. I'm like, wow, you seem a lot older. And I'm like, yeah, well, I had some experiences. Some things have drastically changed in my life.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's tough. So
mhm.
that's when you told me your story, man. I was so amazed to hear it, man. Just to see the man that's sitting here in front of me now, man, because I know how those things could impact you and affect you. And if you don't mind, I want to dig into a little bit the death of your mother, and not so
Sure.
much. We don't have to get into the details, but just how did you respond? How did those unfortunate circumstances impact you later on in life?
Yeah. Well, I'm a man of faith, right? I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a big man of faith, but I tell you, my faith was shook, because I felt like I had prayed to God a lot about saving my mother, and he didn't. For whatever reason, he didn't, right? It was her time to go. And for a long time, I held a grudge, and, I didn't want to talk to God about it, about anything. And it wasn't until I talked to a pastor about it, I said, look, I just want to get some answers. And, in the back of my mind, I kind of knew what they were, but I just wanted to hear from somebody and just say, you know what, and it just comes down to, God makes the choice of whether somebody lives or dies, right, on a daily basis. It's not in your hands, it's in his hands, right? And if you're going to have that faith, you have to learn to live with that. And that was a hard knock to the head, but it was something that I did need to hear, because it's just, it's just what happens. Life and death happen every day. So I had to accept that. And so then when that happened, I accepted, God into my life, and I became more of a faith-based person, and to this day. And but there's still things that I struggle with. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or I'm not a perfect husband. I'm not a perfect father. I have a wife and 2 kids, and every day is, it's a challenge to show love, give love, be who you're supposed to be in God's eyes, right? And that's what makes us human. So from that perspective, I just really try to do what I can to make a difference in their lives, and in so doing, if it impacts me in a good way, that's a good thing too. But I have to be responsible for other people.
Yeah. What do you feel was the hardest part about all that for you? What was the probably the most difficult thing to deal with when it came to all
Yeah, just the pain. I mean, just the pain. Like, I can go to her gravesite now, near where my sister lives, down below Albany there, and I can visit her grave, and I can still cry like a little baby, because I'm thinking about all the things, that she's seen from up where she is, but she never got to see in person. And the fact that my son and my daughter especially was impacted by that, because they never got to meet their grandparents because they were all dead. My wife's parents were died too. So we didn't have the grandparents. We spoiled our kids to a good amount. I mean, we don't have a whole lot, but what we had, we gave it all to them. And, and we're in a little bit better position now, but, I'm unemployed, so things are what they are. But we did a lot, for the kids, and it's because they didn't have anybody else to really count on. And I felt like had to fill a lot of roles. So it was a big responsibility.
Joe, I really appreciate your transparency right now. This is one of the big things that we're trying to really do, man, is let
Mhm.
men know that it's okay to feel your feelings. To let
Yeah,
men know that it's okay to
yeah,
express you're having some pain and you're dealing with some things because that's natural.
yeah.
That's natural. And so many men want to try to shove it or push
Mhm.
those things deep down inside or try to avoid or do
Mhm.
anything they can to not feel those feelings. But these
Yeah,
feelings are natural. And as
yeah.
men, we have to break the stigma and get past that societal expectation that we have to be
Mhm.
this tough man. That's
Mhm.
not the definition of a man.
No.
A man is whatever you need to be at the time, whether you need
Right.
to cry, whether you need
Mhm.
to, scream and yell sometimes in a safe way. Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's okay to feel what you feel and to deal with your feelings. It's the
Yeah.
when you try not to deal with it, it's that avoidance that happens that leads to bigger problems, that leads to things that we can't anticipate. We
Mhm.
have to allow ourselves to feel what we feel and go through and process through these feelings. And
Yeah.
that's a big part of it. What would you say
Sure.
now that you're older, you're a grown man,
Mhm.
father, husband, 2 kids? How has your definition of a man changed?
Oh, wow. Um, it's a lot. I mean, like, as I go back to my faith, right? I'm a different kind. I'm a rock, but I'm a different kind of rock.
Yeah,
I'm not the foundation, but I'm a foundational piece.
right, right,
Right.
right,
So, God made me a foundational piece. Like, God is my foundation, and that's my rock,
right,
but I am a foundational piece for my family. I look to provide. I look to, give advice. I look to just love, and I look to provide guidance where needed, you know, and that's what's changed for me. And I don't look at it as a burden. I look at it as a joy, you know, really. I've been married for 29 years. And, you know, and yeah, I could say, you know, 5 of them happily. No, you know, I mean, I could definitely say, you
Right,
know,
right,
you know, in my wife's defense, I'm probably been more happy than she has with, you know, with it,
right,
but,
right,
you
right,
know, but we work through it. We work through, we're dedicated to each other. We try different, you know, we do different things, and, you know, we have a bond, right? And it's the same thing with the kids, you know, it's just, it's learning how to deal, you know, there's things that you know, as a father that you want to say to your kids. And it's just like, you know, I took life so seriously, you know, and it was just, you know, just how I, you know, in the field that I'm in, I have to be very serious about, you know, controlling costs, making sure I give the right reports, financials, and all. So it's a very serious business, right?
right.
But deep down, I'm a fun guy. I like to have fun. I like to make people laugh. I like to make people smile. I mean, you could see on the
Right.
quad meet, right? We had a good time. We were smiling. We were laughing.
Yeah,
That's what I'm about, right? So combining the two is a hard thing to do, but I learn to do it where appropriate,
absolutely.
you know?
That's amazing. Joe, what would you say to men today? If there was some sort of advice you can give to men just to let men know something, what would that one piece of advice give? What would that one piece of advice be?
You know, in my time that I've been alive, it's to not hide what you're feeling, because
Mm,
anger and joy build up, right? They're both good in their own way, right? But anger is something that, if not controlled, spills out to the wrong people, right? It don't matter if you're an executive. It doesn't matter if you sweep floors. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, don't have any job whatsoever. It don't matter if you're gang banging. It don't matter if, you know, whatever, right? And I'm not here to judge that, right? You do what you got to do to get by, right?
right, absolutely.
But, but if you build up that anger, especially, it just spills out to the wrong people. And you know, I'll just use it for my own self. You know, I build up anger and I snap at the wife. Now I'm on the couch for 3 days, and I'm joking, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it just, you know, and then all of a sudden it just goes downhill from there. And then I got to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. You know, here's what I'm feeling. And then she'll get on me to say, why didn't you communicate that with me? Right. You got to find an outlet, right? And it's got to be a positive outlet. You know, a lot of people look for outlets that aren't so positive, and that's the hard part, right? You got to find something that you can go and do and find something positive, because the big thing is you know, you got to not want to hurt anybody. You got to want to just release some anger. You want to release some tension, but you also want to be able to be like, you know what, I didn't hurt anybody in the process. I didn't have to step on anybody. I didn't have to push anybody out of my way to get what I wanted, to feel some relief.
And that's a great point, man. You touched on so much right there, but I just looked up this quote that Freud said, and it said, "Unexpressed emotions never die; they are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways." There's another lady, and I got to look up her name. I have to go back and tag it on here, but one thing that she said to me that was very important, and I don't, anger. We can dance around with the words or not, but what she told me is trauma, not transformed, is transferred. So basically, like you're saying, those emotions, if they're not transformed, if they're not processed through, they're transferred.
Yeah.
What you do is you lash out to people that you are safe with. The
Mm-hmm.
people closest to you get
Mm-hmm.
the brunt of your anger
Mm-hmm.
because you feel like, oh, well, they just know I'm this that way, or they're going to accept, she ain't going to leave me, whether it's the wife. The kids understand it's just dad, but it's not fair to them. I tell men, especially my clients, I tell my clients all the time, just because you don't want to deal with those emotions, it doesn't mean they don't that they don't go. I mean that they go anywhere. It doesn't mean that they leave because you choose to avoid. Doesn't mean they walk away. No, they settle right down inside of you, and they're going to come up. So
Yeah.
if you don't learn to manage those emotions, they're going to manage you,
Right.
and that's the key, man. We have to deal with it so that the people who are closest to us don't get the brunt of that. They don't get that unfair exchange, or we don't place our emotions on them in an unjust and unfair way. They
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have to carry that as men. And as men, it's best to just deal with it, to manage it, so that our loved ones don't have to carry the brunt of our inability to manage our emotions.
Well, what's happening in society now, Derek? People are just expressing their emotion to anybody they want, right?
Yeah.
And they're angry, they're upset, and everything. And you know what? Some of these people are getting hurt because they're not doing it right. They're just getting up in people's faces, and some people are not going to take that, right?
They're
I'm
not.
not, and it's not, I don't like people up in my face and my grill yelling at me about something, right? Especially something I haven't done. You don't know me, so don't judge me, right? You want to have a discussion with me? Let's have a discussion. I will talk to you. I don't agree with X, but I agree with Y. And here's why.
Well,
You know,
you bring up another very good point. We're in a place in society now where if you dare to disagree with someone, that means you're challenging them, or you're their moral enemy now, or they want to lash on, oh, you're stupid, you're dumb.
crazy.
When do we get to the place that we have to agree on everything?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I honestly, I'm not trying to be stupid or anything. It's just, I don't know what happened. Like, there's just people that lash out for no reason, and just because you don't agree. And it's like, wait a minute. I used to have disagreements with my friends all the time, and then we'd say, hey, come over to my house and let's play. Or it'd be like, hey, let's go have a drink, let's have a beer, and we'll just settle all differences over beer, over who buys. And it's just that kind of attitude. And now it's like, well, I don't want to speak to you, and I think your family's a bunch of scumbags. And I'm like, what the heck? I just stated an opinion. You don't have to agree with me. You don't even have to like it, but just show me some respect.
Yeah. And that all comes down to, though, like, people not knowing how to manage the emotions that come with it, to deal with it. Because what's going on, to be honest with you, when a disagreement happens, a person is taking that personally. And it really comes down to the story they tell themselves when a person disagrees with them. So either, they might be telling themselves, oh, he thinks I'm dumb, or, he thinks I don't know anything, or something like that. So it's all about that story, that narrative going on inside their own mind, and they're projecting on you. I had to tell people all the time, hold on. I understand what you're saying, and I validate your experience and perspective, but I don't agree.
Right.
I don't see it that way. But just because I don't doesn't mean I'm challenging you.
Right.
It doesn't mean I'm disagreeing with you, with your experience. I'm just saying I don't see it that way. That's not my experience or perspective. So I can't say that that's right for me, but I understand what you're saying. And when they start escalating in their voice, I'm really good at, processing through emotions and behavior. So first thing I go, oh, real quick, are you okay? I stop. Are you okay? Because I can't hear what you're saying because you're yelling too loud. So maybe I need to move closer, or I need to move forward. But what is it that we need to do so you're able to effectively communicate those thoughts and feelings you're having right now? Because the way you do it, the way you're doing it, I don't accept.
Right.
If you're going to continue to speak to me that way, I'm going to have to end this conversation.
Right. And that tends to tick them off even more.
Yeah.
I mean, look, when I was in high school, I went to Brooklyn Tech, right? And it was phenomenal. I mean, it was just like, I was a minority, right? There was a lot of Asians, and there was a lot of Black people, and there was a fair amount of Hispanic, right? So I was the minority, right? And I got put in classes where I was a minority, right? And I was in with, smart people, people, just not that intelligent, took longer to learn. I had thugs, I had good people, it didn't matter, right? I treated every single one of them with respect because I respected where they were. I didn't judge them, right? I didn't agree. Maybe, if we would get to talking on stuff and they said, oh yeah, this is what I did, and and I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's you, right? That's not me. I don't, I understand what you're doing. And, I just tell you, I don't agree with you and what you're doing, but you know what, you do you, right? And, I just hope that things work out better for you and that you find something better in life, and be safe. Right. But I'm not going to sit here and say, yo, what you're doing is wrong, man. You just wrong. Right. I'm not going to do that. Just don't force it upon me. And they never did,
Don't force feed me. Yeah, don't force feed me your ideologies. Please don't.
Or your actions.
Yeah.
Especially
please.
your actions.
Yes.
So,
Joe, I got one last question for you, man, and I want to know this, and this is something that's very important to me, and I know it's probably important to you. Joe, what type of legacy are you attempting to leave? Are you going to leave in this world?
Oh boy, Yeah, I've thought about that, you know, and I want to be respected, and I
Yeah,
want to be thought of as somebody who was respectful, who could, you know, who was a shoulder to lean on, who got you through some tough times,
yeah,
made you laugh, you know, sometimes because of how stupid it was, you
right,
know, the stupid dad jokes and the stupid
right,
things that I did,
right.
um, but just somebody that really cared about people and would do, would go out on the extra, would go the extra mile for people of all ages, just to listen, be there, and just be a decent, godly man. That's what I want to be remembered as, a godly man.
That's
He wasn't perfect, but he did, he used what he had to the best of his abilities. And yeah, he had his faults. Everybody does, right? But he didn't let those stop him from doing what he really wanted to do.
well, man, Joe, in the little bit I've known, in the little bit I know about you, in the little bit of time that I met you and knowing you, Joe, you are on the track to do that. You are a wonderful
I
and
appreciate
amazing
that.
man. I truly appreciate your perspective and the experiences and your insight you bring to this world. I love what you're doing around you with other men around you, with the quad meets and how, with the networking and things like that, man. And I know that for someone who is going through, I don't want to project, but what I assume being laid off is not a fun time.
No, of
Being
course
out of
not.
work is not a fun time. And for
Right, right.
being out of work for the amount of time that you have, I love your attitude and the perspective you bring, man. I love the way you're dealing with things. And I know a brother like you, you're not going to be down long, and I wish you the best. If
Thank
there's
you.
any way that I can help you, help your family, or anything you got going on, brother,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out to me, man. I thank you
No,
for
my
being
pleasure.
my first guest.
Hey,
And the reason why you're my first guest, because you kicked it off, man. You pushed this into overdrive, and I said, you know what? I'm putting it together, and it's coming together, brother. And
I
my
just,
mentor always told me that done is better than perfect. You got to jump in and take messy action, and that's what I'm doing, brother. And we're going to get this thing
hey,
expecting to get it right. But I thank you for being my first guest. I
no,
thank
it's
you
my
for
pleasure.
pushing me without you even knowing, without you even knowing what you did. You moved me forward quickly.
I'm happy to hear that, and honestly, all I just said is I'll do it. So let's do it.
That's what we start with.
That was,
Hey, if you ever
that's
want to
all I
interview,
said.
yeah, if you ever want to interview, I'll do it. You
There
know
was
what,
no,
Joe?
there was no physical touching involved. I assure you all. There was no physical violence involved.
And I'm sitting there, I'm at my desk and I'm working, and I see that, and I said, you know what, Joe? Yep, we're going to do it. Boom, 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 boom. Sent you the stuff, and from there, it took action and flight, and here we are right now.
Here we
And
are right now, man,
that
and
was less
that's
than a
and
week
that's
ago.
great, brother. I'm really happy.
Yeah,
What's that?
that was less than a week ago, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah,
you contacted me last week about it, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Sure, why not? So,
yeah. It was.
yeah, it was like Thursday or Friday. He reached out to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do the
Yeah.
first one for you. You can get the bugs out with me and just be like, hey,
Well, I think it's smooth. Like, I mean, I've done podcasts before. I've done different formats and everything like that. But it was just, this is my own thing and putting it into motion. And
Mhm.
once again, man, I truly appreciate you. I wish the best to you, your wonderful wife, your children.
And
I
to you
pray
too.
that you get back. You get something very soon that suits your expertise and allows
Yeah,
you to bring your impact to everyone around you, man. Take
that's the
care.
goal, man. That's the
Yeah,
goal. That's
yeah,
the goal.
yeah. Take care, and
Yeah,
I
you
look
too.
forward to a lot more conversation with you. So
Are you still taping?
yeah, we're still taping.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I got something I want to share with you offline as well.
got
So
you.
when you're
So
done with this,
everybody, this was my first guest, Joe. Don't forget about it, blank. Okay,
forget
so
about it.
yeah,
I'm gonna
forget
forget
about it.
about it, guy.
Yeah.
How you
All right,
doing?
everybody. Thank you for watching and joining.